Chapter 26. Summer. Living out in the wilderness proved to be a lot harder than Summer imagined. She and Meggie Mugs spent the first couple of days eating cold canned stew, huddled together under several layers of Josh's sweaters. Summer would put Meggie Mugs' trembling body under her hoodies, keeping the dog pressed warm against her skin, protecting them both. But she knew she was fooling herself. If she didn't get proper equipment for living in the woods, she was going to die, and so would Meggie Mugs, and she wasn't about to let that happen, not with Josh's child growing inside of her. The only meaningful thing left of him, and the love they shared. So, despite her reluctance, she went back into town, broke into places where there were still some remaining tents, cooking utensils, bottled water, water purifiers, some flint keychains she found to start a fire with, and a warm sleeping bag for her and Meggie Mugs. She then went to grocery stores on separate days, filling her backpack with as many canned goods as she could carry, along with canned and dried dog food and whatever else she could get her hands on for Meggie Mugs. It took many trips. Each time, fear of being attacked would seize Summer, but she kept returning, searching for more goods that she could bring into the little encampment she had built. Even with the metal child's wagon taken from the local Kmart, there was only so much she could carry at a time. She packed a sizable backpack and a compact tin that she could easily carry. She broke into a library, searching the shelves for several survival books on how to stay alive in the wilderness. She even tried her hand at fishing using Larry's prize rod, with not much success. But it paid off when she could eat fish instead of using some of her precious canned goods. Those invaluable survival books taught her how to clean fish and how to snare rabbits and other small creatures. Meggie Mugs was always beside her, looking up at Summer with trusting eyes. Summer learned one day at a time how to survive in the wild, from foraging, hunting, and making small trips back and forth into town to get more supplies. She kept going and, in the process, discovered she was good at it, this survival thing. Day by day, Summer kept to the shadows, her eyes scanning the few people she saw for any signs of danger. A tattered Meggie Mugs clutched tightly under her arm, like a child's stuffed toy. Something Summer never had. Teddy bears got to stay, permanent members of each foster home. It was the children that left, rotating in one door, then out again, like clockwork. She felt afraid, alone and lost. Something not necessarily new, but yet it was. Before, it was just herself to worry about. She looked down at Meggie Mugs sitting pressed against her foot, looking shaggy, exactly like Summer. They sat by the fire, warming themselves as a can of stew she'd opened bubbled in a portable cooking pot meant for portaging. It was early to have stopped for the night, but Summer was cold and she didn't feel like walking anymore. She made the decision to stop for the night, despite the early hour. Cold seeped into her bones, and she felt exhausted from the strain of her pregnancy catching up with her. It had been at least a month living in the woods, or was it? Time had become a blur for her lately, though she knew she should be more aware given her condition. Feeling alone and famished, she lit a fire to warm herself up. Sitting by the flames, Meggie Mugs started whining and wiggling in excitement, jumping up on her hind legs, as if she wanted to go. "Shush, Meggie Mugs." Summer stood up, clutching her knife by her side. She already knew that if she had to, she would kill again. There was nothing left in her that she wouldn't do to protect the dog and the baby. Nothing. Then she heard it. A boy's voice. A child in the woods. A high little laugh not that far away. Meggie Mugs let out a small yelp, her tail wagging back and forth. She desperately wanted to run to check out the noise. Summer's fingers gripped the dog's collar tightly, but Meggie Mugs was determined to escape. She jerked her head back and forth, slipping out of Summer's grasp, leaving her holding on to an empty collar. The dog let out a sneeze before darting off into the thick woods. Without hesitation, she darted after the runaway dog, dodging low-hanging branches and trying not to trip over fallen logs. She could hear the rustling of leaves and Meggie Mugs barking ahead as she pushed through the dense foliage. Sweat dripped down her face, but she didn't slow down. "Come back here, Meggie Mugs, you stupid dog!" Summer hissed under her breath, desperate for the dog to come back. She couldn't lose the little shaggy mutt. Not now, not ever. She needed Meggie Mugs, just like she needed Josh's sweaters. She thought about the aroma of slow-cooking beef stew wafting through the air as it bubbled over the campfire burning. Her mind raced with fear of potential intruders stealing her belongings, while she frantically chased after her escaped mutt. "Damn it, I don't need this bullshit today!" The dog's wagging tail froze, and Summer did the same. The furry creature bounded out into a small clearing, where a tall female figure and child stood. She had long blonde hair and was wearing a sleek, designer backpack that didn't seem suited for long-term living or camping like Summer's worn and battered one. The boy had a backpack covered in colorful cartoon characters, something that Summer was unfamiliar with. She knew nothing about kids and what they liked, let alone what was popular for them these days. Her hand went instinctively to her rounding stomach, as if it had a mind of its own. Would she become one of those mothers who knew everything about kids' trends? Disgusted, she shook her head. Was she delusional? If she didn't act soon, her kid's only concern would be survival, not Saturday morning cartoons. Summer lowered herself down into a squatting position. Hidden out of sight, she stayed motionless, silently observing the mother and son as they walked with little effort to be quiet. Did the woman not realize how careless and dangerous this was? She watched as Meggie Mugs started barking, and the woman and child turned around to stare at the dog. The little boy bent down, a toothy smile spreading across his face.
"Oh, Mama, look! It's a puppy! It's a puppy!"
Meggie Mugs immediately ran up to him. She jumped on her hind legs, pawing at his knees with excitement. The boy crouched down to stroke her, and she responded with eager licks all over his face. Her tail wagged back and forth in excitement, sending him into giggles.
"Adam, no, don't let it do that. Don't let the dog lick you. You don't know where it's come from. It could have diseases."
Hiding her smile with the knuckles of her hand, Summer watched the young boy laugh as Meggie Mugs slobbered all over his face. Awkwardly, the mother stood, her nervous eyes darting around, scanning the trees before her.
"Did it suddenly dawn on you, lady, that maybe the dog belongs to somebody? Maybe somebody like me?"
Summer thought, her smile evaporating. Diseases? Was this lady crazy? Meggie was a freaking Shih Tzu, not a rat. Besides, Meggie Mugs was top-of-the-line beautiful for her breed, a prized possession of the Murrays, bought and paid for from a top breeder. Summer caught herself shaking her head in disbelief. She was actually defending the little rugrat, the same dog she had once ridiculed for being pampered and useless when the world was different. Meggie Mugs almost seemed to understand what the mother had said. She looked at the woman, bent down onto her paws, now resting on the little boy's lap, and barked at her, as if to say, "What the heck, lady?" Summer, trying to contain her laughter, clamped her hand over her mouth. She couldn't help herself. The dog was hilarious and smart. Leave it to Meggie Mugs to recognize someone who is delusional about reality.
"Oh, Mama, she's just a puppy. Look at her. Look at her. She's just a puppy."
Meggie Mugs danced around, lifting her little paws, doing her cute thing where she put them together, making it look like she was waving. She gave a little yelp and danced on her back legs as she continued to wave her paws up and down, looking absolutely adorable. The mother moved towards the boy, ready to pull him away, but then she looked at the small, scruffy Shih Tzu with a wagging tail and pleading eyes. With a soft sigh, she knelt down and ran her fingers through the dog's mangy fur, causing Meggie Mugs to prance and bark excitedly, yipping with joy at the attention.
"Where'd you come from, little dog? Huh? Who are you with?"
the woman said, leaning in closer, petting Meggie on the head again. The dog barked in response and turned towards the trees, where Summer bent low in the bushes, trying not to be seen. A sudden realization struck her. Maybe she and Meggie Mugs could join them wherever they were heading. Summer hesitated, looking at how unprepared they were. Who was she to throw stones when she hadn't exactly been Davy Crockett either, when she stepped out of the Murray's house with Meggie Mugs and Larry's fishing rod in tow? Summer shivered, thinking of those first weeks and the soldier with his pants around his ankles, his gaping neck pumping red like a gurgling water fountain. She crouched, frozen, her heart thumping harder and harder against her chest. Her breath felt trapped in her throat as she watched the boy cuddle Meggie Mugs, his arms wrapped tightly around her. The dog's pink tongue eagerly licked his face, causing him to burst into laughter and nuzzle his nose into her dingy fur. The mother nervously scanned her surroundings, her eyes widening with concern as she realized the dog's owner might not be someone she wanted to meet. As the sun sank lower in the sky, a canvas of shifting smoky clouds rolled in, blocking out most of the light. The air had a chilly bite as evening approached, making Summer wrap her coat tighter around her body. Still crouched low, she tried to balance herself, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. The brittle twigs and leaves beneath her boots crackled and snapped. The woman turned towards the bushes, fear dawning on her face.
"Adam, get up. Come here. Come here now."
She reached her hand out to him. Meggie turned to the bushes and barked, wagging her tail, a sign that the dog was indeed not alone.
"What's the matter, Mama?"
Summer didn't move. She couldn't breathe. She didn't say a word.
"Say something."
Her voice screamed in her head.
Stand up and say something!
The woman clutched the boy, her features frantic.
Who's there?
Summer, paralyzed, remained completely silent. Her eyes wide and unblinking, she willed herself to stand up and reveal herself. But her legs refused to budge, and she remained rooted to the spot, unable to move. Meggie let out a loud bark towards Summer's hiding place. In her head, she shouted,
Be quiet, dog, be quiet!
However, the dog barking only grew louder and more persistent as she turned to look at Adam and his mother before bouncing off into the bushes towards Summer.
Damn dog!
With a loud rustle, Summer placed her hands on the ground and pushed herself up, brushing dirt off her pants, ready to reveal herself. Hearing someone moving in the bush, the woman's eyes widened in fear as she lunged for her son, shouting,
Run, Adam!
In an instant, the woman vanished into the bushes, gripping her son's hand. She stopped briefly to pick him up and then quickly left without looking back, unaware that she wasn't fleeing danger but a pregnant teenager with her pampered lapdog. The mother ran, her long blonde hair swaying behind her, while the little boy looked over her shoulders, his thin legs wrapped around her waist. He craned his neck and spotted Summer standing alone in the woods, Meggie Mugs sitting at her feet. He lifted his small hand in the air, his eyes locking with Summer's, and waved. She lifted hers slowly and gave a wave back, watching her last hope disappear into the trees. Once again, Summer was alone.